Welcome to No Free Lunch, Africa's freshest business and tech podcast with me, your host, Greg Stewart. And with tax season in South Africa just around the corner, our discussion today is a well-timed one, and we will be unpacking how technology is creating offerings for taxpayers and businesses to assist in streamlining and uncomplicating tax returns. And with me today in studio is Daniel Swiegers, the owner of TaxTim, a South African fintech company specializing in automated tax compliance and accounting solution for SMEs and startups. Daniel, really good to have you on the podcast with me. Let me just ask you this. What led you to acquire the company in the first place? What was the attraction? What was the goal of acquiring it? Was it to expand the services that you currently had, or where do you see that going?
Sure, Greg, and thanks for having me. I think it's always interesting to chat about this and to explain a bit of our thinking, especially on a bit of a more longer form content style. So it's great to be here. We acquired TaxTim around this time last year, and I think from the start, when we entered into the process of looking at the opportunity, I think it was very clear for us that I think firstly the business had built a really, really strong brand over the last 10 years. Evan Robinson was the founder and the brainchild behind the business. And I think they really, really solved the problem in South Africa, which TaxTim plays in this perfect middle ground between people that are probably a little bit too anxious to file directly on SARS, or they might not be very comfortable filing directly for free on e-filing or at a SARS branch, but they also don't want to pay or can't afford to pay for a tax practitioner, which is becoming increasingly more expensive to pay someone to do your taxes. And TaxTim plays in that perfect middle ground of really helping people in a step-by-step way, plain English, no jargon, really sort of taking the confusion away from tax. And the whole business was born around that. The whole brand is about why should tax be this very scary thing once a year that people are very anxious about, and how do we get that? I don't know if demystified is the right word, but getting people a lot more confident in being able to file their own taxes. So we really felt that the business had a very strong brand. It's very clear to see the problem that TaxTim solves to its customers and the value that it offers. And then the business had great partnerships with a lot of the big financial institutions. There's big, nice partnerships with Momentum, Sanlam Reality, FNB eBucks. We've managed to bring Capitec Rewards on board. And I think that really just helps building the trust among customers when you partner with those great financial institutions, that customers or South Africans can see that TaxTim is a trustworthy brand and a great business to work with. So I think it was a lot of those elements that we saw. And I think when you look at a tech problem, it's always, well, I specifically ask myself, does the underlying problem that the business tries to solve really exist? And I think in this case, it was quite clear that there's a real desire for South Africans to be able to feel a little bit more confident, less anxious, and be a little bit just more comfortable in doing their taxes every year.
I suppose when it comes to taxes, tax returns, it's a tricky landscape, and I think people can feel intimidated by it. And I want to clarify a point here. I believe it also covers things like VAT and PAY payments. Is that also correct?
So, Greg, the business is predominantly focused on individuals. We focus on predominantly the income tax return, the ITR 12 that's opening up next week when tax season starts. And we also help people file their provisional tax payments. We do have a team of registered tax practitioners that work at TaxTim. That help solve our customers' queries as they file their tax. We always say that our team of humans are there for you while you file. And essentially those team of tax experts can also help on some other services, but that's more of a services play that we help people with. The core product in the business is aimed around helping individuals file either their income tax return or their provisional tax returns.
And in terms of that, what are you seeing, or what have you seen in, let's talk about the whole regulatory type environment. There's been some shifts recently in the regulatory environment. What are the shifts that people are struggling with most? Where are people finding the sticky points?
So we always make it very clear we don't see SARS as competition for us, not at all. We work very closely with SARS to essentially help a big segment of South Africans become compliant because they feel more confident in doing their taxes. So it's by no means is this a negative point towards SARS. I think SARS has done an extremely good job of trying to make tax easy, the auto assessments, bringing a lot of your data in from financial institutions. So they really are trying to make it a lot easier. I think there's a sentiment in South Africa that sometimes people are still a little bit scared of SARS rather than feeling confident. And that's why they love working with TaxTim, because it gives you that comfort that there's a middleman that's also looking at something. There's a team of humans that can help you in case you get stuck, which we see as one of the big value propositions, is just having that helping hand there with you while you file your tax. But having said that, I think SARS they've become very good at picking up that you've earned additional income, or so you see a lot more people being asked for verification letters after they file their tax. SARS is actively using tools like AI and data to actually become a lot better at picking up where they might be owed additional pieces of tax and just enforcing what the actual law is. It's not that they're trying to take more of your money, they're just becoming better at enforcing it. And that sometimes scares people. When you're getting a letter from SARS at the end of it, which says we need to verify that you have X and Y, that's sometimes it makes people quite anxious. But again, that's what we see ourselves here for, is playing that role that we can actually support people. We have these teams of human tax experts that they can send a message to and say, what does this mean? What do I need to reply? And that's all part of the value proposition.
So talk to us a bit about that whole onboarding process. What does it look like? Is it a completely automated system? Are you using AI to do the assessments? Is it a digital situation? What can people expect from the system?
So TaxTim at its core is actually just a very simple product. People can create an account for free, which already gives you access to what we call our tax dashboard. It's a way for you to set yourself some tax reminders. You can see the upcoming deadlines. You can see all of your correspondence within this dashboard. That's completely free. And then when you start a tax return, it's actually just as simple as answering a couple of questions just to tell us what type of taxpayer you are. That determines the cost of a tax return. It's just a little bit dependent on if you have got a complex tax situation versus a very simple one. We then ask you to make payment, but we do then first ask you whether you're a member of one of our partners. So again, as an example, if you're a Momentum Funds at Work member, you can get TaxTim for free. So we ask you whether you can get a discount or the service for free through one of our partners. You simply make payment, and then the system takes you through a very step-by-step process explaining concepts very clearly. So you're basically just filling in a very conversational style, you're filling in a form that ultimately gets you to a completed tax return, and then we automatically submit that to SARS on your behalf. We then have the ability to what we call after filing support. Is because you've paid for a tax return, you have access to our team of humans on the help desk. So if you do get any of these letters, you can send a message to them and ask a question. And then, Greg, what's quite exciting is we actually rolled that out last week, both on WhatsApp and as well as in our product. But we've launched the concept of TIM AI this year, which isn't automatically doing stuff for you, but what TIM AI does is it sits alongside you in the filing return. So as you're filling in this form, you've got access to TIM AI. Now, I want to make it clear that TIM AI is not a registered tax practitioner. It won't do things for you. But what it does do very, very well is it helps you explain anything in your tax return. So as you're going through the TaxTim process, the moment you, as an example, get asked for source code 3699 and you don't know what that means, it's a quick question to TIM AI. It explains it very clearly, always in plain English, no jargon, and it just gets you that one step closer to being more comfortable to go through your return. So it's a very exciting product that we've rolled out for this tax season. And again, it's hitting on the mission of ultimately this business was built to make tax easy, and TIM AI is just another way that we're doing that.
Yeah, it's quite amazing to see the new business interactions that are possible on WhatsApp and how WhatsApp is really surging into that environment, which in a South African and African context makes a lot of sense because people are familiar with it. They know the technology, and it's a situation of comfort, I suppose. Um, just talk to us a bit about the AI that you've built in behind that. So will people be able to simply lodge an inquiry and go, okay, do they get an immediate response? Is it something that happens automatically? How does that work?
So on WhatsApp, we've made Tim AI available on WhatsApp because I agree with you. It's from a distribution perspective, it really just is a great way to get to all South Africans. I think the exciting thing is we've made it available to all South Africans. You don't have to be a TaxTim customer. Tim AI on WhatsApp is there to answer any tax question you have in seconds. So whether you're a TaxTim customer or not, you can send a message to Tim AI about anything. I just paid for this. Can I claim this from my tax return? I've made a little bit of extra commission income. Where do I submit that on my return? Anybody can ask a question and anybody can get an answer. We originally and actually built Tim AI for the actual filing product within TaxTim as you file, because it becomes a little bit more powerful in that situation. It actually knows your context. It knows where you are in the return. It will actually help you step by step get through your tax return. But we then made the decision to say, well, again, the whole business was built around this vision of or mission of making tax easy, and the best way to do that is to make it available on WhatsApp as well. So it's more a secondary application of Tim AI than it is the main use of the product.
Well, it certainly sounds like something that can be adapted into other uses, and probably looking forward, potentially be used for smaller businesses and the likes of PAY and BAT and that sort of thing. Because again, smaller businesses often don't have the money to employ full-time accounting services and so on, and are often left a bit stranded, especially with things like that. It certainly seems like there's an extension that could be happening there in the future. Any thoughts on that?
I definitely think so. I think the other really exciting thing for us, and maybe I'll come back and speak to you closer to the end of the year when we release some more interesting products. But the other segment of the market that we really are building a couple of very interesting products for is around the sole proprietor and someone that often gets confused with the term SME, because it's someone that's trading and operating, but they're not potentially doing it out of a legal PTY structure. And for those individuals, we're busy rolling out a couple of very interesting products, because ultimately those individuals need to file an ITR 12 income tax return like any other individual, because they're trading out of their own name. But they tend to be provisional taxpayers as well, because they're earning non-salaried income. And because of that, we're building out a couple of interesting products that just help them manage their tax affairs year round, rather than it being this once a year event. Another set of examples, even just people that own a couple of rental properties. It's you keeping all of your slips in a shoebox or in an Excel sheet somewhere, and when tax season comes, you've got to go open up that shoebox, and it's this dreadful experience. And we're really looking at how do we make that a bit of a year-round product, that it becomes very seamless. You're tracking everything within TaxTim, and then when tax season comes, it's one click, and we can pull that into your return for you.
That sounds really good. And again, those sole traders, and there's a lot of them out there, are a good market to tap into for this kind of product. And what about expanding beyond South African borders? Any plans that side?
On the technology side, it's not that difficult to do. The system can actually work anywhere. The TaxTim in the past has actually had an engagement with a big financial institution in Namibia, so it's not that difficult to do. I think the harder part that people don't always realize is actually the understanding the tax ecosystem, understanding the sort of regulation in that country. That's often a little bit trickier. I think at this stage, to be completely honest with you, we believe that there's such a nice opportunity in South Africa that it's not necessary right now to look abroad. I think we can really build on what has made TaxTim such a great business over the last 10 years and really just amplify that within South Africa before actually having to look abroad.
Daniel, last question from me. What sort of price tag is involved here for an individual just doing their tax return to actually use the full service?
So we've got three main tiers that we offer to our customers. The first one starts at 190 Rand, which is really, from a price point, it's really affordable. From being able to go through the system, you get access to humans that can help you. You get access to TIM AI. So that's a real benefit to be able to offer it at that price point.
Yes.
Our middle tier is around the 500 Rand mark, and our upper tier is around the 799 mark, and that's again just based on your tax situation. So where you are potentially someone that has a lot of or that has some investments, that has medical aid, that has rental to declare, that has freelance income to declare, that might make a tax return just a little bit more complex, and then it might be a little bit more expensive. But then again, it's if you look at the great partners that we've signed up, from Capitec to FNB to Standard Bank, Momentum, Nedbank, we typically do also find that most of our customers are able to come to us through some form of discount via one of the partners we have, just because of the great reach that those businesses have. So it's actually a great way of getting it for even less than that. And we always say to people that we're quite confident that we're almost a third or a quarter of the price of a tax practitioner if you have to go and ask someone to file it for you. So we believe it's a great affordable product. And again, it's just another way of trying to help people to feel confident with tax, understand their tax, and ultimately be compliant.
Well, with tax season right around the corner, as you mentioned, I think it was the 12th of July it opens. There's certainly a solution that people can tap into. And for the audience out there who are looking for a solution that's affordable and provides them with ample support, TaxTim seems to be something that people should go and have a look at. Daniel, thank you so much. It's been great chatting to you. And I'm really keen to hear about some of those new developments going forward. And maybe we'll have a further discussion somewhere on down the road. Thank you for joining me on No Free Lunch.
Thanks, Greg.